Right now on Indianapolis This Week.
You are not going to defeat ISIS simply by airstrikes.
Senator Dan Coates, who sits on the Intelligence Committee, and his views on the terror threat ISIS and whether U.S. troops need to be deployed. Plus, a Sunday exclusive with the new national commander of the American Legion.
So are you a Republican or you're a Democrat?
And more with Charlie White on politics and the media. Then the 14-year-old girl who just wants to play football in the Sunday Spotlight.
From RTV6, the Indy Channel, this is Indianapolis This Week with Rafael Sanchez.
Inside look into a terror threat. Senator Dan Coates sits on the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee, and he often sees information that he really can't talk about, but he can be vocal about what is already in public involving the group ISIS. This week, we've learned that the U.S. has spent nearly $1 billion fighting ISIS. The cost would likely double if ground troops were added into the mix. We begin our discussion today with Indiana Republican Senator Dan Coates. You have also been concerned about ISIS, and I know that you're very concerned that the president last week said that he underestimated ISIS. How does one underestimate an organization which had already beheaded several Americans before he made the comments?
You not only have that, but you have a president who basically called them the junior varsity and then said, well, I didn't get the right intelligence. Now, I happen to know that the president is supposed to get the first thing in the morning an intelligence briefing. I'm on the Intelligence Committee. I get those briefings. Then we learn the president, less than 50% of the time, or more than 50% of the time, has said, I don't need a briefing. I don't want a briefing. That's inexcusable. I know that George W. Bush got a briefing every morning, first thing, 6 o'clock, because I know the briefers. When I was ambassador, I got a briefing every morning from my intelligence people. As a member of the Intelligence Committee, I get access to intelligence. My guy is there every morning with whatever I need to know.
So were you seeing something when you heard the president? I know that you really can't talk about things in that briefing, but based on the fact of what the president said, when you heard the president saying that this group was a junior varsity, was that jiving for you as you were looking at what you were seeing in the intelligence report?
Absolutely not jiving. And in fact, I can say what was said in public hearings with the Director of National Intelligence, the head of the CIA, the head of NSA, and others who have publicly talking to members of Congress that has been non-classified. They made those warnings, and so it was on national TV. It was covered by C-SPAN. It was available for the press. Beyond that, those of us who get those classified briefings knew exactly that this was a threat. Think that the president didn't know this defies belief. I mean, for whatever reason, he's been disengaged. He has not focused on what I think the duties of the president need to be and the responsibilities, and to then turn around and blame the Director of National Intelligence when that has been available to him every morning, and to find out that he said, no, I don't need it. Well, the buck stops here. It stops at the president's desk, but that he doesn't seem to understand that.
Do you think we'll need boots on the ground? This president has said we're going to do a lot of airstrikes. The Arab world, much to the surprise of many, has participated or is participating in some of the airstrikes, right? That's sort of a new concept. But will we need American troops beyond the force that's there already to actually go after ISIS?
Well, in my opinion, in the opinion of our military leaders and analysts and others, you are not going to defeat ISIS simply by airstrikes. It is good that some of the Arab nations are helping us. I called for that immediately. But they need to help us with forces on the ground if we're going to succeed in achieving the goal the president laid out, and that is to destroy ISIS, to terminate them as an organization. Do you see that as a major shift,
to see a Saudi Arabian fighter in the air striking inside another Muslim country? To you, you've been in politics for many years. Did you think you ever see the day when the Arab world will actually help the West in something like this?
Well, I didn't, but I always felt that it was necessary because it is their religion, it is their culture that is at stake now with ISIS, who wants to wipe out all of that.
Sure.
And finally, they faced up to the reality, the fact that they're next. And so to see them engaged, I believe, is absolutely necessary for success. we have tried bringing Western values and Western culture and Western military to the Middle East, and we have not been successful in achieving the goal. And so it's clear to me that while we can be a part of this, and while this is a threat to us and we need to be engaged, it is the Muslim nations that are the more moderates that see this threat coming directly to them that have to take the lead and be an integral part of what we're doing, or we will not succeed.
Sir, thank you so much. Appreciate your
You're
coming.
welcome.
Thank
Talking
you.
to you,
Senator Dan
Rafael,
Coates.
as always.
Please come
Thank
back. The American Legion is also concerned about national security. The Indy-based group represents more than 2 million veterans worldwide. I recently met the Legion's new national commander, Michael Helm, an Army veteran who served with the 82nd Airborne. His major priorities over the next year to focus on policies that will protect the homeland and the health care of veterans.
Well, the organization last year stepped forward on what was going on with our veterans' health care, and now we're making strides forward. We're going to continue to do that. The main thing that we're also looking for, besides better health care for our veterans, is accountability on what happened. There are people that actually made bad decisions within the VA. And we think those people need to be found and prosecuted or gotten rid of, and we'll continue to work at that. At the same time, we'll continue to work at timely health care for our veterans. That's the main issue of our organization. The other thing on the other side of it is our national security, what's going on with ISIS right now, and what's going on with our military funding.
And what are your thoughts on that? Because we are now seeing a global intervention. There are now the Arab states, for the first time ever, are now actually putting planes and striking ISIS with bombs. Is that are you seeing that as a good thing, or in the sense of that we're getting an international cooperation against this terrorist network?
The American Legion has always been concerned about the terrorist, the way that's been unfolding, and we're glad now that the president's come on board now to actually do something about that. And certainly good to see other Arab countries come on board and realize that there are people within the Arab world that are against whatever goes on in the rest of the world. Sure. And there's no way that we can negotiate with those people. Their way of life is totally opposed to ours, and we can't make an agreement between them. They have to be destroyed. It's good to see not only some of our regular allies, but also the Arab world coming on board on that.
What more will you advocate in this area? Because we're told that this cannot be a military solution, that this also has to be a diplomatic solution, that people have to talk to each other, because we just can't send in ground troops and hope that the U.S. military solves this problem.
Well, part of that's true. Might have to be some negotiation somewhere else. But with ISIS, there is no negotiation. They're going to have to be destroyed, and it's going to be militarily destroyed. Like I said, there isn't any sitting down with them and saying, well, should we lop a head off or shouldn't we lop a head off? Is it a good idea to tie explosives onto your children, or not a good idea? That's not something, they believe that, and that's the way they operate. We can't deal with that. There are other elements of the Arab world that certainly we can sit down and talk to. But ISIS and that extreme part of the Arab world has got to be destroyed.
So do you think we'll have to send in some ground troops to take care of?
There's no doubt in my mind that eventually there's going to have to be some sort of ground troop military action that comes from somewhere in order to put a stop to this.
Commander Helm, thank you. The president makes a stop in Indiana, and after the break, we're sitting down with our political insiders, Kip and Abdul, for their take on the president's visit and much more when Indianapolis This Week continues. There's good news for the economy this week. On Friday, new numbers released show unemployment rate in the United States dropped to its lowest level in 6 years. The unemployment rate now at 5.9% after employers added 248,000 jobs in the month of September. We haven't seen an employment rate this low since July of 2008. Joining us now on the roundtable, Democrat Kip 2 and Abdul Hakim Shabazz with IndyPolitics.org. The numbers are good, but is it the true picture of the economy?
Well, I think it is a true picture. In fact, the earlier months were revised upwards, so the economy seems to be doing pretty well. Unfortunately for the president, it's not translating into popularity, and I think there's a whole lot of reasons for that. But it's interesting that this is probably the best economy we've had since the middle of George W. Bush's term, and we are in the throes of fall election here, a midterm election, and it's not helping the president that much.
Obviously, it's always good when more Americans go back to work. I don't think anybody doubts that. I think what the problem is when we look at the jobs that are created, a lot of them are part-time jobs. The full-time jobs that disappeared haven't necessarily come back yet. And the workforce participation, that's the real number to look at, has stayed stagnant at about 30% of the population is still just perpetually out of work. And until we deal with that long-term unemployment, that's what the problem is going to be.
On the domestic side, is this the October surprise?
No, I don't think it is the October surprise. We're going to talk about the president coming to town in a little bit, but one of the interesting points that he made when he was in town is that, or when he was in Princeton, Indiana, I'm sorry, is that we're seeing a surge in manufacturing jobs in this country. Manufacturers are bringing jobs back from China. Businesses are asking, where do you want to invest your dollars? They want to invest in the United States. So I think there's a lag. I think the president's economic policies are making a huge difference for this country.
Let's segue. The president was in Indiana on Friday. Why Indiana? We are not a battleground state. This state will more than likely go possibly red in the next cycle. Why here, not somewhere else?
Well, it does a couple things. One, like Kip said, it highlights sort of the manufacturing sector. Indiana is a manufacturing state, of course, of which people in the Obama administration understand how important coal is to Indiana to power, energy for a lot of those manufacturing plants, so we can keep those 30,000 something odd manufacturing jobs here in the state of Indiana. But it was a minority-owned business that the president spoke to. Like I said, it's a place where he normally doesn't go, and you got nothing to lose. It's not like the Democrats are going to win anything down in the 8th Congressional District anyway, so may as well come down and have fun.
He could go somewhere else, more of a battleground state. Is that a sign that those senators don't want him there, or is this just a safe territory?
Well, I think he's trying to. He was in Evanston the day before he came to Indiana, and he's trying to do the message, which is, hey, the economy's improving, it's coming back, manufacturing's coming back. He wanted to highlight a state that was heavily dependent on manufacturing. Had we not done what he did back in the start of his term to bail out the auto industry, we would be in a lot worse shape.
Do you buy that?
The governor of the state of Indiana voted against that bailout.
Do you buy
so
this?
I think this is a big highlight.
I will give the president gets the credit when the economies do well. They get the blame when the economies do fine. So obviously there is some of that. But also I think...
So you're giving him credit?
Of course, yeah, of course I give him some credit. I mean, just like I'm sure Kip would want to give Governor Mike Pence credit, for the job that he's done over the past couple of years, also doing things to help bring down that unemployment. Because it can't just be the president all by himself, right?
It can be.
You're not even going to give him that, are you?
I'm glad you brought it back to the State House, because at the State House, Glenda Ritz is expected to go to the legislature in January and say, look, it's time for Indiana to pick up the full tab when it comes to textbook rentals. We're only one of 8 states that still requires families to pay a portion of the textbook rentals. Is that a possibility? That's a $100 million program.
Well, I think it's going to be dependent on how it polls in New Hampshire and Iowa for the governor.
He went there.
You did it.
To this. No, unfortunately, the governor likes to tout that we've got a $2 billion surplus. If we've got a $2 billion surplus and we give $1,000 tax credits to people who go to private school or homeschool their kids for textbooks.
And we also give tax credits. We also give tax credits to people who do adoption. We do tons of tax credits for tons of things.
My point is that we ought to spend the money on free textbooks. People shouldn't have to, who don't have the means, have to pay for textbooks. It's part of the free public education we ought to be giving to folks. Instead, we give it to the private kids and not to the public kids.
So why didn't Evan Bayh do it? Why didn't Frank O'Bannon do it? Why didn't Joe Kernan do it?
It's time to do it now.
When they were all governor, they all had the same opportunity to do this.
Well, the textbook price has been going up, so it's a bigger burden than it's ever been.
I wrote some hefty checks this year for both my 8th grader and my high school senior. I paid it, and that's great. But is it time to sort of take that burden away from some families?
I'll go a step further. I don't even know why we're still using physical textbooks to begin with anyway, when you can do e-books much easily. The kids don't have to carry the books around. They can rent the textbook on their iPad or on their computer, and then when the time school's over, the book can disappear. I mean, if Glenda really wanted to make a difference, she would encourage the school district to go the electronic route as opposed to physical textbooks.
I think there's something to that. I mean, I think we ought to make investments like that.
Minute left. The governor going to New Hampshire as part of his tour to help other candidates around the country.
Yeah,
should we make anything of it, or is it just that he's doing his thing to sort of prop up some candidates that are running for election?
The New Hampshire guy is a long shot by all accounts, but he's trying to collect chits. I mean, he's clearly looking at the presidency. I don't know why anybody's denying the fact that he's taken a hard look at this thing. And I mean, good for him. I think he meets the moment for the Republican Party. I think if he is the Republican Party nominee come 2016, he'll get his clock clean. But I do think he falls right in line with where the Republican Party is right now.
Once again, Mike Pence is on the executive committee of the Republican Governors Association. This is what they do. They go to campaign for other governors, whether it's New Hampshire, Iowa. They went to Scott Walker in Wisconsin. I think he's got like a trip to New Mexico coming up in the near future. This is what they do.
Has he been to South Dakota?
I have a feeling we're going to all be traveling to New Hampshire.
I'm sure he'll go if they call. I could even show up at the KIP 2 household if you ever decide to run for president.
New Hampshire, here we come. The conversation between our insiders continues on Twitter. Check out their Twitter handles and give us your opinion and stay up to date with Kip, Abdul, Laura. This morning, more of our exclusive conversation with former Secretary of State Charlie White. Currently, he is a blogger and an internet radio personality, while he challenges the conviction against him. Now, Mr. White has plenty to say about the Department of Education, his political party, and us, the media.
I think they failed the public because part of reporting, I think, is simply report the facts. Good facts, bad facts, doesn't matter what the party is, but it's also to educate a little bit. Educate the public as to how things work. And I think that the way some of these folks, and there's a few of them in each organization, they're not all of them, there's a few of them, I think that some of them are sometimes thinking more about their personal advancement and are not really thinking about the fact that what they say about an issue might actually affect the citizens, the voters, and just the way we report things. And it's those individuals that I think they probably are better put as either a public relations director for a company or for a party, or perhaps they should just be a business development director for a company trying to get business.
When I listen to your program, will I say, there he goes again, or will you be sort of that person who can sort of be in the middle?
My program is going to be more about fairness, about treating the little guy better no matter what their party, union, or business.
And you think you can be fair because you have been through a lot, which we can't talk about, which is fine.
I get it.
Right?
Yeah.
That's fine. But can you be fair? Or will people say, this guy has an agenda? And are you okay with saying, yes, I do, and this is who I am?
Yeah, and that is my agenda. And the only time where I can be fair in that I've said before, and I'll say it again, there are certain people that I'll probably be talking about in the future. I think they're brilliant people. They're very smart people. But sometimes there are people that are so smart, you kind of wish they weren't so smart because they're clever. But I'll always give credence to people who are smart, but maybe you wish they weren't. And on the other hand, I also will say that if there are reporters or there are politicians that I didn't particularly care for what they did in the past, if I see they're doing something good, I want to encourage good behavior. I'll be the first one to say, hey, like I talked about Glenda Ritz the other day on my program. I admitted to everyone, I did not vote for Glenda Ritz. I did not vote for her.
I would not expect you to.
Okay, well, but I won't go any further than that, but I will say this. I said I didn't vote for Glenda Ritz in 2012. However, once she got elected, you have to honor the will of the voters and not create a redundant organization like CECI to try to undercut her. The voters said we voted for Pence, we voted for Glenda Ritz. They want people to compromise and to have that debate.
So are you a Republican or you're a Democrat?
I think my wife said this, you're a party of one. I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican. And my beliefs are the same, but I didn't stop being in the Republican Party as a member of the organization because it was out of choice. It was several people that, frankly, have a lot in common with me on a personal level that we'll get into some other day, that they decided on their own very quickly that I wasn't a member of the party. So I can't be a member of a team if you've been released.
Charlie White. We could not talk about his legal case because it's still pending. You can find more of our conversation with Mr. White from last week and this week on our website, theindychannel.com. Still to come, all she wants to do is play some football. But why is she not allowed to take the field? And the decision that one group made with Indianapolis this week continues. The season is over for a 14-year-old girl who wanted to play football. The Catholic Youth Organization says it will review its policy that only allows boys to play the game. Only on RTV6, the young lady and her love of the game. Cece Lucia kicks to win. She and her dad practice often, and she has no problem clearing this tree line, an imaginary upright. This is what she enjoys.
I just want to play. You know, I love kicking, so I just really want to play football.
Cece suited up for the first time on Sunday for her school's St. Simon. She made not one, but two 20-yard field goals.
It was really just reassurance that I could do it, because people saw me do it, but it wasn't with pads on and it wasn't during a game. And, you know, I didn't know if I could do it with all the pressure, but it was just saying that I could do it.
But by Monday, she was benched. The Catholic Youth Organization says she can no longer take the field, specifically because girls are not allowed to play CYO football. Number 71 was disappointed and comforted with the support on social media.
I think that they know that I'm good enough, and they're just as angry as I am that I can't play.
Cece's parents are proud of their daughter's courage and strong character to pursue her athletic dream.
We all love her very much. We want her to be happy.
I knew she could kick. I didn't know how well she could kick, but last year she kicked a 40-yarder into the wind.
Her love of football began at the age of 5, when neighborhood boys would kick the ball over this playset. By age 7, she had mastered that skill. She tried other sports, but football remained her first choice. Her dream now is to finish with her team. She's ready to take the field and let her leg do all the talking.
I've always loved the sport.
St. Simon's plays later today, and Cece will be cheering on her teammates. Her hope is to play football in high school. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next Sunday right here on Indianapolis This Week.